And notice here, the top is generally darker and the base is dark, and here in the middle, it's light. So those are the kind of the relationships that I'm looking for in the beginning. You can't see the reference as I draw because I'm holding it up, but you can print your own copy so you can see what I'm doing, can understand what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So in the beginning, we just kind of worry about value relationships, like I said. Notice the kind of the sweeping motion of these dark areas in the mountain. So, you know, as I apply my material, I think it makes sense to follow the general direction of the darks that I see. Okay. So what I've just done has a lot of texture. I want to soften that. And you know, this material is a lot of fun because it's very forgiving. It's like playing with sand, okay? I do want you to have some fun with it. Down here, it's like a lot darker. See this darkness here? So I'm gonna block that out. I'm still using one tool. I'm still using the willow to begin. We talked about this light area, right? So let's try to keep that area light. Notice how nicely this cap eraser works. Okay, whoops. If your hands are messy, it's gonna be easy to smudge your paper, so just be careful. If you're worried against smudging, you can actually put a piece of paper under your hand so you smudge less, but for now I'm not gonna worry about that too much. Okay, and now I'm gonna try to block in some of the values in this reflection. I think it might actually be easier to just kind of generally block it out and then pull out some of those lights. And keep working in layers. It's all about the layers, okay? Notice it's quite a bit darker down here and maybe around the periphery. So this value that I've just added doesn't match what I see here. So I'm going to add a few more layers. Down here it's really dark. So I'm going to go ahead and press hard. For tighter areas, I think it makes sense to use a blending stump. And we notice that the water here is light, but there's still different kind of grays, some different grays. So I'm gonna just block in some of this foreground and maybe add a little bit of material in here to make it a little bit gray, but not too dark. If I squint, I think this foreground here is just a little bit darker. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a base color to this foreground, this grassy area here. All right, so I'd say at this point we have a pretty good start. Then you can be a little bit more precise about all of the little details you see. So I'm gonna work on the sky a little bit more. Notice the shape of some of these clouds. If you want to be more precise about the shape, you can always remove material. Notice how I can suggest kind of the outer edge of some clouds just by using this tool. And within the dark area, we also see kind of lighter bits. You can actually pull out those light clouds with your eraser. And in order to make it look natural, you don't want all of the clouds to be the same size. So at this stage, we're trying to be more precise about the details that we see. So I see some really bright areas, and then I see kind of shadows within the clouds. So it's okay to go back and put shadows within the clouds. I'm not pressing too hard with my blending stump. Notice this blending stump is very dirty, so kind of carries material with it as I use it. This is a nice tool because it's small, so you have more control when pulling out lighter clouds. This line here feels just a little too straight for me, so I'm just gonna soften this a little bit. And in here I see some very bright areas within the cloud. So I'm gonna again pull some of that light out. And you can also make some shadows. So what is, what is this drawing about? Like it doesn't have to be a perfect match. Rather, I want you to gain some confidence with suggesting different textures. Can you give the suggestion of clouds, for example? The idea is to learn how to use the material with a certain degree of confidence. So at this stage, I feel like I've worked a lot with the soft pastel, so I'm gonna actually work a little bit with my compressed charcoal. And again, this material is a lot darker. It's harder to erase. So it's really best to include once you're kind of ready for it. If you add a little bit, it is possible to blend it in a little bit. It is possible to use your your pencil as well. And the nice thing about pencil, you can use it like a regular pencil in terms of how you apply it. You can hatch with it, cross hatch, etc. So here's a really good place to add the compressed charcoal because it's really dark down here. It's a solid black. I'm just softening some of the strokes here. It's very much a process of push and pull. So I add material, take away material if I need. Notice how the darkness is really setting in nicely now that I'm using compressed charcoal on my pencil. So that's what we want at this stage. There's like some snow here that's really white. I'm not gonna worry about that yet. For the super light areas, I can always go back in and add white charcoal at the very end. But notice how bright I can get it just by erasing. And that's just the paper. So here, remember how we blocked out some of the tree? You can kind of suggest some of the contour by kind of cutting into it this way. So I want to shape the tree a little bit more around the edge before I apply my material, just a little bit. I'm going to use my pencil here. Just let's see. I'm going to use my 4B first. And I feel like I lost some of that darkness, so putting in a few more layers with the soft pastel. And I'm giving the suggestion of the pine texture. It's not super precise. The idea is to just suggest it. You can only get so dark with the, with the soft pastel. That's why it's important to use the pencil or the compressed charcoal later on. The nice thing about this is that it can also be blended. So you can add some material and then soften it. I think that's what I'm going to do. I want to soften it in some areas to kind of integrate it. And I can always build more texture on top. This also is kind of pushing the darkness into the paper, which is what I want. Notice these dark areas in here, so you can just kind of work in your material. For bigger areas, it might be better to use a bigger tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out this big piece of compressed charcoal. In general, on this side of the tree, it seems to be a lot lighter. You can actually, again, pull out some of the lights. Think of the eraser as a drawing tool. All right, so right now I'm just, I'm going to continue pulling out some lights from this tree. The more you work with the material, the more you'll understand what different tools can do. So I'm kind of liking, my blending stump because I feel like as I blend it, it keeps the material on the paper. I'm going to go ahead and put some compressed charcoal here in this corner. So right now I'm blocking out the different values in the water. So right now I'm just pulling out some of this grassy texture down here.